Chris. Welcome everybody. Like Chris said, if you're new, especially new, we welcome you. Hopefully you have a good time, and please also join us for the snack time and the fellowship time. And I was reading an article that they say that everybody who visits a church for the first time, only 10% stay. They ever come back a second time. So it's that hard to find a church. And I know, churches are a little different here and there, and you have to find something that fits you. I understand that. But also I think if you put a little bit more of effort of trying to get to know the church a little bit more, even though it's hard, it's going to pay off in the end by helping you really see this is a place where you want to be or not. So please join us for the snacks and fellowship, and we welcome everybody. We are still in the book of Galatians, and last week I said that it's very difficult to share the gospel today, right? And I told you that I think out of the maybe 10 years or more that I've been sharing the gospel, give and take, I think I can maybe remember about 5 people that came to Christ or that started attending church because I shared the gospel. So it's very, very hard. It also shows how incompetent I am compared to someone like Greg Laurie, who when he preaches the gospel, like 20,000 people come to Christ. So he has a much better record than me, or anybody else here. But it's not about who gets more or whatnot. The commandment is to do it, right? To share the gospel. So whether it's 5 and 10 years or 20,000 in a day, right? We just do it, right? So it's very, very difficult, and it's no secret that sharing the gospel, it's very hard because we know that people don't want to hear it. We know that when you try to share Jesus with others, they reject you, right? They don't want to talk to you. They tell you to go away. They don't want to hear anything related to Jesus, and that's why many of us, I think, have a hard time even sharing because we get intimidated by that. We don't like to get rejected. It's so hard, difficult. It makes situations awkward, so we never bring up Jesus to other people. It's difficult, right? In all honesty, it is not easy. But today, today, I wanted to, this is why I don't sing as part of the praise team. We'll leave that up to them. By the way, did you notice? Man, our vocals are so good. Like, oh man, it's like, so yeah, let's give him a hand, dude. Like, the combination of the voice, because I love talent shows. I love talent, and I'm kind of going off track right now, but I love watching good talent, and a lot of the talent shows are about singing and stuff. So sometimes I watch not American Idol, but what's the other one? Huh? I watch The Voice, yeah. America's Got Talent. And then there's the Korean shows, right? They have like the Superstar or something, and the K-pop something, right? And then like, man, the voices are, it's like so, like, you really enjoy the gifts and talents that God has given some people. They really bless you, right? But I kind of feel like our praise team, and they're pretty up there too. If we had like a praise team concert, Who Got Talent among praise team, whatever kind of show, I think we can send them out, right? And see how they do. But anyways, it was really a blessing, so thanks a lot, praise team. But that wasn't part of that wasn't part of what I'm trying to say. But even though it's hard to share the gospel, I think people will reject you if you try to share Jesus directly to them. But there's one way. There's one way that makes the gospel very attractive. And the same people that will reject you when you try to share Jesus with them, they would die to hear about what you have to say. So that's what I want to share with you today. What's that one method that makes the gospel that is so difficult to share just with people so attractive, and it makes people die to want to hear the gospel from you? Okay, so that's what I want to see today. So if you have your Bible, please open with me to the book of Galatians chapter 1, verses 11 through 24. That's Galatians chapter 1, verses 11 through 24. And please leave it open in Galatians chapter 1, verses 11 through 24. It's a long passage, so we're going to read it throughout the sermon. So leave it open. For those of you who are new, our church, the way that we preach on Sundays normally is we try to tackle books of the Bible. So we go verse by verse, book by book, and hopefully we'll finish the book in our lifetime Sunday. But that's kind of our preaching approach. We try to study the entire Bible, and we just started in Galatians, and we're finishing chapter 1 of Galatians today, the last Sunday of September of 2014. Galatians chapter 1, verses 11 through 14. This is what Paul is saying in verse 11. For I would have you know, brothers, that the gospel that was preached by me is not man's gospel. For I did not receive it from any man, nor was I taught it, but I received it through revelation of Jesus Christ. For you have heard of my former life in Judaism, how I persecuted the church of God violently and tried to destroy it. And I was advancing in Judaism beyond many of my own age among my people. So extremely zealous was I for the traditions of my fathers. But when he who had set me apart before I was born, and who called me by his grace, was pleased to reveal his Son to me, in order that I might preach him among the Gentiles, I did not immediately consult with anyone. Nor did I go up to Jerusalem to those who were apostles before me, but I went away into Arabia and returned again to Damascus. We're going to stop there for now. For those of you who've been here for the past few weeks, we've been sharing that Paul is on a quest right now and a mission to try to win the Galatians back. Right? We said how there's these Galatian leaders, apparently the church leaders, something went wrong with them, and they started to deceive the same people that they were shepherding. They started to deceive them and tell them bad things about Paul, and the gospel that Paul preaches is incomplete. They're trying to discredit Paul. They're trying to discredit Jesus. And these teachers all of a sudden turned bad, and they started to deceive the people and preaching a false gospel, to the people. It's kind of like your leaders right now, like our EM leaders who, lead small group. They're really good and godly and they believe in the right stuff. All of a sudden one day they all decide that, they don't like me anymore, and they want to fire me from church, and they don't like the gospel anymore, and they start to teach the people false things and try to deceive the people in that way. So that's kind of what's happening in Galatia. And then Paul is on a mission to win back the Galatians. So he's arguing his case. And we saw how in the beginning he was showing them how he is not just any man, any servant of Christ, but he's an apostle of Christ. And we saw that, right? He's apostle with a capital A because he heard directly from Jesus Christ. And we also saw, and Paul is repeating this message about the gospel, that the gospel that he preached to them, about them being awful sinners who needed to be radically rescued by Jesus, and that they needed to put their faith in Jesus to be saved. It wasn't a message that he made up. It wasn't a message that was incomplete, but it was a message that came from God, and that's the message that he shared with them. The gospel was a divine, complete message, and anything these false teachers are trying to deceive them with is actually a lie. Right? So that's what Paul is doing. And again, he starts by talking about the gospel and reminding them, this is not something man-made. This is not something he thought about. This is not something that was revealed to him by another man, but it came through a direct revelation from Jesus Christ when he met him on the road to Damascus. That's when he heard the gospel. And today, Paul uses a different method to try to convince the people that this is indeed a message from God. And the method that he uses is his own personal testimony, right? This is why Paul starts by saying in verse 13, for you have heard of my former life in Judaism, how I persecuted the church of God violently, and I tried to destroy it. And I was advancing in Judaism beyond many of my own age among my people. So extremely zealous was I for the traditions of my fathers. He starts by sharing his testimony of who he was to validate the fact that the gospel that he preaches is from God, is a divine message. And he tells them stuff like, I was trying to destroy the church. Right? I didn't like this gospel message. I didn't believe in it. I was actually somebody that was trying to destroy this message that Christians were preaching. Paul actually had so much influence and power that he got permission from the government and religious leaders to actually kill Christians. He was so passionate about destroying the church and the gospel message that he went not just in his surroundings but different cities to capture and kill Christians. So Paul is trying to say, why in the world would I be trying to argue with you that about a gospel that, at one point in my life I was trying to destroy unless God really gave it to me? Right? That's what he's trying to do. How can I go from trying to kill Christians and destroy the church and the gospel message to now giving my life for this message? Right? Unless this message is true, unless this message is from God, and unless Jesus really gave it to me and it transformed my life radically. I mean, he says it here. He says it was his passion to destroy. He was so zealous. He says he was more advanced than his contemporaries. When it came to Judaism, Paul was the best. There was no one from his group or his age that even came close to this guy. He surpassed all of other religious people his age at the time. He was the best. If anybody were to destroy the Christian faith, Paul was a good candidate. Kobe Bryant. I haven't mentioned him in a long time, so I'll mention him today. One time I was watching an interview that he did. Somebody asked him, I think something like this. He said, "Who do you think is the best shooting guard, from your era?" And then Kobe, so pridefully, he said, "Me." Something like that. He said, "Me." But then, I was thinking, this guy is so prideful. But when he started giving the reason why, he was still prideful, but it made sense. This is what he said. He said, "Of course it's me," or something like that. Paraphrasing. He said, "The reason why I'm the best is because I surpassed all my contemporaries. Nobody comes even close to what I have done. I beat them all." Basically what he said. And he started mentioning names of Tracy McGrady, other shooting guards at the time, Tracy McGrady, Allen Iverson, Vince Carter, people that started with him, but that don't even come close to what he has achieved. And he alone stands at the top. He is the best of his era. And I think he has a good argument. I think nobody would deny that. That was Paul. Paul was the Kobe Bryant of Judaism. Nobody came even close to measuring up to this guy was the best. He could argue and he could kill, he could do whatever he wanted. He was the best. He surpassed all his contemporaries. So for somebody like this, like Paul, who was actually killing Christians, trying to destroy the church, and then all of a sudden, hearing the gospel and that changing his life completely, and now being someone that believes and preaches the gospel and is willing to give his life for it, you cannot, you can reject Jesus, you cannot believe in Jesus, you cannot believe in the gospel if you don't want to, but you cannot deny a changed, a transformed life. You see, that's as powerful as it gets. People might not want to hear about Jesus. People might not want to hear about the gospel, but if they see a life transformed like Paul by the gospel, they're going to want to know what happened to this man that he changed so much. They're going to want to die to hear about this gospel that had such a powerful change in this person. The gospel is going to be authenticated and its power is going to be seen by what effect it had on a life. You see, so that's what Paul is doing. He is validating the truth. The gospel message has come from Christ through his life testimony. Because it's not just a message. It's alive, it has power, it's from God, and it transforms and changes life like nothing else. You know, these days, there's a lot of stuff on ISIS, right? The Islamic terrorist group. As many of you have probably heard, it's all over the news, and I think we in America hear it a lot more. I don't know too much about it, but I'm trying to keep up with it a little. We know a little bit about it because, in case you didn't know, we went to war again. We're at war again with ISIS, and the U.S. has been like bombing them and stuff like that. So you know, we went to a war with them. So we're back in war. So America is in a war right now. Okay, and I saw a documentary on this group ISIS on this TV show called 60 Minutes from CBS Channel 2, and they were sharing a little bit about who they were. And ISIS is this seems to be this radical extremist Muslim terrorist group controlled by one old man. He controls everything. But this group is gaining momentum, and already they have about 100,000 followers. Some very committed, some just following them out of fear, but nonetheless their amount of followers is growing. The amount of revenue they make each day, on one day, they make over $6 million. Of course, from committing crime and bad things, but also from supporters around the world who like extreme things and are supporting ISIS. So, and the person doing the interview from CNN told the guy, hey, if they're making $6 million a day, more than $6 million a day on revenue, they can do whatever they want. They become a legitimate threat to the entire world. Imagine getting that much power and money as a group. And then they're very radical, and I'm sure you've kind of heard and seen about them coming up on TV and killing the people they kidnap. They're killing a lot of Christians. They don't just kill them individually, they kill them as a family. But the way that they do it first is they start by killing the children in front of the parents, and then killing the parents too. And they kill a lot of people, and they're very extreme and evil, and they need to be brought down. No doubt about that, right? But imagine if this ISIS group leader, this one man who's controlling this entire thing, and basically he's saying, I got truth, and you better believe what I believe, and you better join me or die. Imagine if this person all of a sudden heard the gospel of Jesus Christ and became a Christian. Imagine if this person actually one day heard the gospel, believed it, and completely changed his life and what he's doing right now. Right? Everybody in the whole world would want to hear the gospel. It's no more, don't tell me about Jesus, don't tell me about that. Everybody will be like, what happened? How did you change? It will be all over media, every single news station in the world. People will write books about this guy. It'll be on Facebook. It'll spread like wildfire. Because the effect the gospel had on this man. It would make the gospel message so believable. It will make it so powerful and authentic when people saw how it changed the life of a man that many thought could never ever be changed. Right? And everybody would want to hear about this message that changed such a radical, violent, extremist terrorist. That's what Paul is doing. He's sharing his testimony because he's just trying to find ways to show them that, he met Jesus is real, the message is real, the gospel is real, and he uses probably the most powerful and best method, his own life story. He tells, hey, remember who I was? I was trying to kill Christians. Remember who I was? I was so passionate to destroy the church. If the gospel isn't real, why in the world would I be trying to preach it to you right now? That's basically what Paul is saying and doing. Using his own life story to tell others about the truth of the gospel. And he's just trying to share with them how much his life has changed and everything, and how much the gospel is not just a message that he received and is trying to preach to others, but is a message that he has received and it has completely changed his own life. And notice how we know that this man really believes in the gospel, and he really believes that it is a message from God, because his life was changed. His life was changed, and because he now is actually living for this God. He's sharing the gospel with others. That's usually what should happen in a life that really has encountered the gospel, has met Jesus Christ, and has been saved. A life that truly believes in the gospel and has had an encounter with Jesus Christ can never be the same. You see, Paul says, I was destroying the church, I was killing Christians, and then here when he says, until the Son revealed himself to me and he heard the gospel and he met Jesus directly, he says, as soon as that happened, the first thing that he did is he went preaching about Jesus to others. You see, when you are really a Christian, when you have really met Jesus Christ, when your salvation is real and this gospel message is not something that you just agree in your head, but it has totally transformed and affected the core of your being, you can never be the same. You must serve God. It's impossible just to keep the gospel to yourself and not live for God. This is why there's no such thing in Christianity, there's no such thing as Sunday Christians. This is why in Christianity, there's no such thing as consumerism. This is why in Christianity, there's no such thing as people just coming to church just to have a good time as if it was a talent show. That is not Christianity. If we really believe in the gospel and we have met Jesus, our lives cannot be the same. The gospel, the effect that the gospel had in our lives will just show, even though we don't want it to show. We can't live the same way we did. We can't go back to our old sinful lifestyle. Something powerful happened. We met Jesus, and that shows. That shows. Because we start living like it. We don't just attend church. We don't just come to church on Sundays. We don't just come to hear a good sermon or a good... That's not Christianity. If that happens, most likely that means that person has not met Jesus yet. Most likely that means they have never really accepted Christ and are saved yet. Most likely that means they're still not a believer if all they do is just care about their own life even after they have met God. It just doesn't make any sense. If you watch all the superhero movies, right, all of them, all the superhero movies, right? When something powerful happens to them, like Spider-Man, right? Gets bit by a spider. Or like Iron Man, he gets his heart taken out. Or like these guys. When something as dramatic as that happens to them, did you notice one thing? Their lives are never the same. Their lives are never about them anymore. Even the most selfish and conceited, even Iron Man, he's the most selfish and conceited, like super robot or whatever. Even he changes. Even he changes. He becomes somebody that stops living for himself, stops living a conceited life, and risks his life to save others, even to the point of death, like the Avengers 2 showed, where he went up there and he was the only one that risked it, right? That's what is supposed to happen in a life that has truly met the gospel. You cannot just live for yourself anymore. The gospel melts away all kind of selfishness, selfish desire, and just living a good life for yourself. And it starts this passionate desire to live for God, passionately, even when it gets hard, and to serve others. It's never about you and your own life only anymore, but it becomes all about God. Living for others. If we have truly, truly believed in the gospel message and had an encounter with Jesus Christ. It can never be a selfish thing. The gospel melts all selfishness, all weaknesses, all desires of just living a comfortable life. It helps us see that we were created for something more. It helps us see that the time we have on earth here is not to build a good life for us, but it is to live for God. The gospel, like Tim Keller says, changes everybody. He changes the proudest of men, the people that think they don't need God. Paul was so proud. He knew he was the best. He thought he had truth. He was trying to destroy the church. The gospel is for the most wicked of men. Paul was a murderer. The gospel is for everybody. The gospel changes the religious and the irreligious, like Tim Keller said, changes the proud, it changes the wicked. It changes everybody if the gospel is true. If you have really encountered the gospel, you will never ever be the same, and you will see proof that the gospel message is true by how your life shows it. This is why Paul, he's trying to argue with them, and he's trying to show them that this gospel, it's not just something man-made or something somebody gave me, but it's something that God has given to me. This is God's message that changes humanity, that changes mankind, that makes people come to know God. This is the only message that God has given to mankind for people to be saved. And the way that he does it is through his life testimony. I'm a little hesitant to share this, and I was really thinking about it a lot. And also, I kind of took it out of my sermon in the beginning, and then I prayed, should I do this, should I not? Then I put it back on my sermon right before the service started today. Because the main reason that I did that was because I have to mention names of people. And I hate to do that, whether it's for a bad reason or for a good reason. For bad reasons, because we don't want to give them a bad reputation. So unless it's about my story or my family, I try not to mention any names. But also, even if it's for a good thing, we try to leave people out or names out from the pulpit because we don't want to show favoritism to people. We don't want to, our ministry, everybody is equal. No one is better than anybody. And everybody gets treated equally. So we don't want to give special treatment to anybody. So I was trying to not share and probably even try sharing without mentioning names, but I couldn't. I couldn't leave the names out. Because if I share the story, people would know. It's impossible to hide. They will know the gospel being displayed in their lives and how, the gospel is being preached through their lives. So I'm going to share a story with people in it, and I'm going to share their names. But I just want you to know that it's not because they're more special or anything like that. And they're not the only ones living like this. There's a lot of people here, especially our leadership,
You know, they're so sacrificially living for everybody's doing a great job. But I'm just using this story today in particular because it's the most new, most fresh story, and also to encourage you to go to missions too. So yeah, but it's not because they're special or particular in any way. So I just wanted to make that clear, including myself. You know, yesterday we went to Mexico missions, right? And then we go there every month and stuff, and we've been going there for the past 4 years. But recently, 2 people joined from our ministry. There's people that go in this summer and stuff, and people that go to different places. But there's been 2 people that have been going, to Mexico every month, and it's so difficult to go. I've been going for the past 4 years. It's so hard, especially the part when you have to come back. Being in the border for 2 hours, and then and then having to drive. It's just a killer. People go one time to Mexico and they never go back because that part. They don't want to be stuck in the border for 2 hours. So it's difficult. And then, when they first started going, I honestly thought, man, I don't think how long they're going to last. They're probably not going to keep on going. And maybe they went because they liked each other, because, it kind of turned into a relationship. But anyways, they kept on going, and they've been going for the past few months. They exceeded, what I thought they could do. But the reason why I wanted to share this story is because I've seen growth in these lives. Not just them, like I said, everybody in our ministry in many different ways. But I know their past. I know who they were. And I know the kind of Christians they were, and before Christians and everything. And now there has been so much growth. They go every month to teach English and art, to give of their talents to people that wouldn't be able to afford it otherwise. In Mexico, the students, they don't even have money to go to school, many of them. So that's why a lot of high school schoolers or junior high, they don't even know how to read or write because they can't pay for school. And imagine it'd be a miracle for them to get an opportunity to learn English and art. Right? But these people are talented in that, and they go and share, their talents and teach people. But yesterday, and then these people are Isaac and Sally, for those of you who know. This is why I'm telling you, I can't hide their names. People, you know who they are. And yesterday, though, it occurred to me to challenge Isaac a little bit more than usual. And, my van, we take 2 vans. My van, we have this thing, for the first time ever, we got this thing called a fast pass, where you can cross the border in 10 minutes. So we don't have to wait anymore. But there was the other van who didn't have a fast pass. They would have to wait 2 hours. The van with the fast pass came to church at 6:30 yesterday. It took us 10 minutes, it took a miracle to cross the border in 4 years, my first time. And then Isaac didn't have that, and then, of course, Sally was riding in that car too. And they were in the van with all the kids, junior high and high school. So driving alone is painful. Having to deal with kids that are so loud is like a killer. Right? Before I asked Isaac to do that, I actually debated a lot. Should I? A lot of the reason why also was because, not just for them, but because of the safety of the kids, right? We're entrusting, we've never had somebody so young like Isaac actually take care of so many kids. But I'm all about taking risks. I'm all about challenging people. So, and then Isaac actually, before I even asked him, he came up to me and said, hey, I'll drive, I want to do the hard things. I'm going to a mission, so I want to do the hard things. So, okay, fine, you do the hard things. And then before I even asked him, he said, can I drive? So we let him drive. We let him drive the van. And driving in Mexico is different than driving here. It's super scary. I could see it in Isaac's eye, this is not easy. But he wasn't saying, he's our army man, he's not going to say that this is hard. And but I saw it, but I still kind of felt like, no, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Let's just let him go through this. I'm sure in some way, somehow, it's going to benefit him. and then we let him drive, but it was a harder situation than usual. It's never been this hard ever before. He was driving, and then our van, we kind of went a little fast, and then he had to follow us. But of course, if he can't see us, then he gets lost in Mexico. He doesn't know anyone. He can't even. He can't speak Spanish. It's super hard. So we went, and then traffic was coming, but I guess he kind of wanted to, not lose us. And then they were turning, and they were almost hit by a bus. Like a big Mexican bus almost hit them, right? They almost died, and I saw everything happening. I'm like, oh shoot, that bus. And then it almost hit them. They didn't get hit. They stopped all the traffic from this side, like from the people that were coming this way. But that's not where it ended. There was a cop, right there, and he pulled him over. He pulled him over in Mexico. He can't even speak Spanish, and then we're like way over there, like we can't do anything. And I see everything happening, and we stop, and we're trying to see what's going on, and they're pulled over by a cop. And usually in Mexico, when you get pulled over, and you're from America, it kind of gets complicated. Unless you bribe them a little bit and give them like 20 or 40 bucks to like let you go. But I didn't think Isaac would know how to do that, because he grew up in America, right? And and then we were waiting, and then they eventually we saw the cop just driving by, and after like 5-10 minutes, and then Isaac and the van came, and they said that they asked them why they were here and stuff, and they were here for missions, and he just let them go. He just let them go. That doesn't happen in Mexico. They never let you go unless you give them money, but he just let them go, right? And then even all that happened, he didn't say, "Hey, I can't do this. You drive." But he stuck with it to the end, and eventually went through 2 hours of border, and then got to the U.S. by 9 p.m. Right? Him and Sally and then the high school kids, without even having eaten dinner. And then I was just kind of like worried and everything the whole time, but I was just kind of like thinking about Isaac's life. And then of course, Sally is one of our most new members. And who they were before, and how much their lives have changed. Like you can't deny that they have heard and believed in the gospel when you look at their lives. Not just them, a lot of people in our ministry. You can't deny that a powerful change has taken place in their lives by the change that you see. And you know what happens? All of a sudden, their friends, your friends who have seen your life change because Jesus is real, you have met the real Jesus, you know what they're going to say? Before you even go to them, they're going to be like, hey, you used to smoke with us. You used to drink with us. You used to do these things with us. But now you just go to missions and you just help the homeless and you just read the Bible and pray. Like, what happened to you? Can you please let me know? Your family members, they're going to want to know what in the world got into you. You were the most rebellious. You never talked to your mom. You never talked to your dad. You just changed. What happened to you? And you know what you're going to say? You know what you're going to say? You are going to share the gospel with them. Because although they would never want to hear anybody talk about Jesus or the gospel, because they see the gospel in your life, they're going to die to want to hear about who is this Jesus that changed your life. Because the way that you live is going to authenticate the message and show people that this is indeed a divine message from a Jesus that is alive, from a Jesus that is a true, one and only true God. You see, you cannot reject that. You cannot deny that when you see a life changed by the gospel. And that's what Paul is doing. You know, Paul can argue as much as he wants, like use the smartest arguments, to try to show them that Jesus is true, the gospel is true and all that. But the most powerful thing he can do is show how it changed his life. That's the most powerful way he can share the gospel. And that's how you and I can also share the gospel with people that don't know it yet. Make them really want to hear about it by first showing them how it changed our lives, and now we're totally different people than we used to be. That it wouldn't have happened unless Jesus met us. We're gonna pray for a couple of things. You know, if you are not a Christian yet, and it's fine. If you're in pursuit of a relationship with Christ, don't feel judged. Don't feel like, bad or anything. But really, take this opportunity to ask Jesus into your life. To ask Jesus to give you faith in Him, so your life can become the gospel too. So your life can be changed and forever different too. You know, God is real. He's so alive, and His message is so real, and whoever encounters Him, whoever believes in Jesus, their lives will never be the same. Like, it's not even up to you. It's that powerful. The only thing that can change a life, regardless of how wicked or how proud, regardless of how sinful or non-sinful it's been, it's the gospel of Jesus Christ. You want a different life? You want to live with a purpose? You want to make your life count here while you're still alive? Then you need the gospel. Is there anybody in your family or friends whose lives are a mess right now, and you think there is no hope? There is hope. Their only hope is the gospel. Their only hope is that they meet Jesus Christ. That's the only thing that will change their lives, that will save them forever. Pray for yourself, your loved ones who don't know Jesus, that God will have mercy on their lives and they will be saved. Let's pray for that first, then we'll pray for something else. Father, we know that we are so sinful and we never change on our own. Sometimes we hate who we are and we try to change ourselves, but we can't change ourselves. We know how wicked and sinful mankind is. Sometimes we have pain in our lives because of loved ones that don't change, of loved ones that are deeply rooted in sin and destroying their lives, and we deem them hopeless. Their only hope, our only hope, is Jesus Christ. Would you please save us, whoever doesn't believe in you? Would you please have people in our lives that don't believe in the gospel come to know you? Let us see changed and transformed lives once again. Let's pray for one more thing. If you are a Christian, if you have already encountered Jesus Christ, then you cannot live a quiet life. You cannot just live for yourself. You must live for God. The gospel demands, requires that. Our lives can never be about this world anymore or our desires. Our lives go beyond that now for greater purposes. We live for God regardless of how difficult and hard it gets, because we are not the same. If you have been discouraged and you're kind of burnt out and you don't really are excited about God, then ask God to restore you this day. Ask God to renew you this day. Ask God that you would be so excited moment by moment to live for the living and risen Jesus Christ day by day. And your life will be a gospel in disguise. Your life, people will see the gospel in your life and they would want to come to know Jesus because your life has been truly changed by the gospel. Let's pray for them. Father, this is a divine message. We had an encounter with God. This is no small thing. We were once sinners. We were once sinners, more sinful than we ever thought, more wicked than we ever thought, in desperate need of a rescue from Satan, the world, sin, and the flesh. And you came into our lives and gave us that rescue, Jesus. You transformed our lives into eternity. You gave us a new life. It was the most powerful experience that we've ever had. Let it show. Let it not be hidden, God. Let the gospel show through us, and may many more come to you, Jesus, through us. May many more be saved because they see how the gospel has transformed